Welcome everyone to another session, another Lab Wednesday College Readiness session. We have some good feedback good content that we have prepared for you guys today. If you don't know my name and face, my name is Ms. Tucker, and I'm one of our Ed Associates of College and Career Readiness over at the district in Paul Laurence Dunbar High School. And I'll pass it over to my partner.
Hi, everybody. My name is Inez Ford. I'm an Ed Associate as well, and I am at Merville High School.
Awesome. So the topic that we have to share with you guys today, we're going to talk a little bit about navigating the college admissions process and even possibly receiving some rejection letters. So what do we do now that we've applied to our schools of choice? What now? What comes next? You can go to the next slide. Okay, so the goal of our session, our goal for today is that we'll be able to understand the different categories of admissions decisions. So it isn't so black and white, and sometimes crystal clear as an acceptance and a denial. Sometimes there are things like waitlisting. So we're going to talk about those different categories of admission and what that means for you and your individual process. And we're also going to understand what we need to do in order to receive an admissions decision. Okay. So let's see what you know. Here we have a couple of true or false statements that we're going to do together just to see where everyone is before we begin the session or engage in the content rather. So I'm going to read off some statements and looks like a couple friends, 6 friends that are in this call with me and Ms. Ford. If you can drop in the chat, true or false. Very simple, very basic. Okay, ready? Here we go. Number 1, is it true or false that students across the country must decide on April 1st which college that they are going to attend? Is that a true or false statement? Students across the country must decide by April 1st which college they are going to attend.
Okay, Naja, thank you for your answer. You'll find out at the end if you're correct.
Can you read off what our answers are so far?
Oh, Naja said no. Ella said, Naja said true. Ella said false. Malik said true.
Got it. Okay, good. Next one. Question number 2. You should go into your student portal and accept your admission decision into any school that you get into as soon as you receive that decision. So that means once you've been accepted into that school, you should go into that portal and immediately say, yes, this is where I'm going to go. True or false?
What do you think? Is that true or false? Morgan says false.
Okay, Morgan.
Malik says false.
False, okay. Anybody else? Okay. Statement number 3. You have to pay a small fee in order to hold a spot if admitted into a college. Is that true or false? If you are admitted, if you have an admissions decision that says, yes, you can attend my school, you have to pay a small fee in order to hold your spot there. Is that true or false?
Okay, Ella said false.
False.
Malik said false.
Okay. Anybody
Naja
else?
said false.
Oh, a lot of falses. Okay. We're going to see. All right. Last one. I'm so glad you guys are with me. You can appeal an admissions decision if you are not accepted into a school. Is that true or false? So that means if a school gives you a denial and says, unfortunately, Kyrie, we cannot offer you an admissions decision at that time. Is that a final decision, or are you able to go back and appeal the decision and say, I think I should be admitted to this school, and these are my reasons, or apply again? True or false? You can appeal an admissions decision if you are not accepted into a college or university.
Okay, so far everyone has said false.
Okay. Lots of falses. Okay. All right. That was just our little temperature check just to see where we are in the content, just to see what we know. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Ford, and she's going to give us the answers.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for answering. You are going to get that quiz at the end, just so you know, and we'll go over the answers, and I'm almost certain that you'll be able to answer all 4 of those questions correctly by the end. So hang in there with us, and thank you for your time. We're going to get going. So first, let me just congratulate you on completing or working on a college application if you have done so. I know there is a lot of nervousness about whether or not you're going to get accepted into a school, but you really should pat yourself on the back for just completing a college application. That isn't easy, especially in the time of a pandemic. If this was during a regular school year and you had a question, you could go see your counselor, you could go see people in the school building to help you. Right now, you've got to send emails or create a Zoom. Like it's 10 times more difficult. So we really, really want you to just take a second and congratulate yourself and pat yourself on the back for a job well done. And if you have completed a college application, we want to make sure that you remember that you need to request a copy. You need to request that a copy of your transcript be sent to the school. Just because you hit the submit button, if you have not made sure that your transcript is being sent by your counselor, it's not really complete yet because you won't get a decision until that school gets your transcript. Another thing you want to do is make sure you request teacher recommendations. Most of the time, that's going to be done on Naviance, but if your school doesn't use Naviance, that's fine. Either way, just reach out to your counselor and find out how your school handles teacher recommendations. Some colleges require them, some don't. But if the school you're applying to does require them, you need to get it. And we've had students in the past where they requested a teacher recommendation. Let's say they emailed Miss Tucker when she was a teacher and said, "Hey, can you write me a recommendation?" But they didn't follow up with Miss Tucker. So just because you emailed a teacher the request through Naviance, or you sent them an email, you've got to make sure that they said yes. Don't assume just because you asked that they're going to write one for you, because if they haven't said yes and then you are just assuming that they're going to write one and it doesn't get written, and you need a teacher recommendation in order to be considered for a particular school, your application will be considered incomplete. So it's not complete until they get the recommendation if they need it, they get the transcript. Those are the two big pieces that really make it complete. So just make sure you're following up with that. If you did take the SAT or the ACT and you want your scores to be considered, make sure you go on the SAT's website, which is collegeboard.org, or ACT.org. Go to the website where you set up your account and then get your test score sent. Counselors do not have the ability to send your test scores. They can send your transcript. They can't send your test scores. For the class of 2021, because of everything that happened with COVID, most students have not taken the SAT or the ACT. So this may not apply to you, and that's fine. But we just wanted to put it out there in the unlikely event you have taken a test and you want those test scores to be a part of your application. Make sure you go into the website and send your scores. And again, congratulations on working on and on completing that college application, because again, just in and of itself, that's a big deal. Alrighty. So it's not necessarily about which school you go to. Um, Keep in mind that if you've applied to more than one college or university, you're more than likely going to get a mix of admissions decisions. I certainly did. I'm sure Ms. Tucker could talk about it. I got into some schools and I did not get into some schools. That's part of the process, and that's okay. Remember, it's not necessarily about which school you go to. It's really about what you do when you get there. When you get there, are you going to be joining organizations? Do you take advantage of the tutoring services? Are you going to the career center? Are you visiting your professors during office hours? Are you going to the writing center? Do you do study abroad? Do you network? These are the kind of things that make your college experience, because you could go to the one of the top schools in the country and just take your classes, get the grade, and go home. And then, when you graduate, let's say you're looking for a particular job, and you can say, "Hey, I've got a 3.0 at top university." Then you could have a student who maybe didn't go to the top university and they have that same 3.0, and they're like, "I did a study abroad. My junior year, I went to Spain and lived both semesters because I was taking Spanish in college and I really wanted to beef up my language. In my senior year, I had an internship and I've got a recommendation from my professor who I always went to their office hours. So my professor wrote me a recommendation for my job." And they can go on and on about some of the things they did. And 9 times out of 10, that student will get the job, or that student will get admitted into grad school or law school or medical school, versus the other student who went to the top school, but they just went there. So just keep that in mind, because I know for some, maybe not everybody, but for some people, you might not get admitted into your top school. That's certainly what happened to me. That happens to other schools and to other students. And sometimes students get really disappointed, like, "Oh my God, I had my heart set on going to XYZ school and I'm not going to get in." But again, it's about you taking advantage of the opportunities at whatever school you go to. And in the end, especially when it comes to jobs, they want to know what you did when you went to school, not necessarily what school you went to. What did you do when you were on the campus? In the end, that's what counts. And we want you to literally look at a 30-second video where the dean of undergraduate admissions at Yale, which, as you know, is one of the top schools in the country, pretty much says the same thing. And this is on College Board's website, which I'm sure if you take the SAT, you are familiar with College Board. And again, he is the dean is also just saying the same thing. Don't get so set on a particular school. If you scroll down, the video is gonna be right there. Yep. Scroll up a little bit. Right there. Oh, Miss Tucker, I think because you're muted, they can't hear it.
Oh, fantastic,
Oh,
guys.
no worries.
Let's start this thing over.
It's somehow about getting into the right school, and that the school is somehow going to make something out of you. The truth of the matter is at any good school, you're going to make something out of the school. That is, it's far more important that you be prepared to go to college and that you fully engage the infinite opportunities that are available at any good college than to obsess on which one you're going to.
And again, really quick video just to remind you about that. Absolutely, you want to be prepared and you want to take advantage of all the opportunities that are given to you at a college. Don't get so caught up in like I want to go to XYZ college, okay? And keep in mind, so for those of you who have completed those college applications or you're almost completed, generally speaking, it takes about 6 to 10 weeks to find out whether or not you have been accepted into a college. If you apply to a community college, for example, generally speaking, you're automatically admitted as long as your counselor says that yes, the student is on track to graduate at the end of this year. But if you apply to a four-year university, your admissions decisions are generally going to fall into one of the following four categories. The first category, of course, is that you're going to be admitted. That's for admitted slash accepted. That's pretty easy, right? You're fully admitted to the school. You can start in the fall. That's self-explanatory. Number two, accepted, but you have to enroll in a bridge program. So this happens sometimes. A student, let's say you're right on the fence in terms of what they're expecting for GPA, or maybe you're applying to an art school and like you kill it in your audition, but maybe your GPA or your test score is close to what they want. They may accept you and have you do a bridge program. I had to do that at the school that I went to. And basically, usually it's a summer program where you got to take like a college level English and or math class. And as long as you pass, you go ahead and go right into the school. Towson and Salisbury actually have a program, like a bridge program, where you take classes at the community college. So you take classes at the Community College of Baltimore County. One of the programs you take classes for a semester, the other you take classes for two. And as long as you maintain, I think it's a 2.5, then the following year they accept you into Towson or Salisbury. You live on campus, and it's just like you're attending the school there, but you take your classes at the community college. So you might get accepted and be asked to enroll in a bridge program. Sometimes you can be waitlisted. And basically, what that means is that they're going to wait a few months to make a decision. And usually they're waiting to see how you do third and fourth quarter. Again, if you're like right there, like right on the cusp, and they're like, oh, we can almost admit you, you're close, they're going to say, okay, we're going to hold off a couple minutes. We're going to waitlist you. It's not a denial, and see how you do. Sometimes third quarter, sometimes second quarter if you apply early, and sometimes they'll say, we'll decide in the summer because we want to see how you do third and fourth quarter. And of course, the other decision is denied. And I know all of you answered false, but you actually can appeal. If you get denied admission into a school, you can appeal the decision. And we're going to talk a little bit about each one of the categories. So accepted, um, for the most part, regardless of what the decision is, your decision is going to be in your student portal. And sometimes you can receive an acceptance letter in your portal. It can be in your email. Some schools do an old school and they'll mail you a letter. But almost all colleges expect you to make a decision by May 1st, not April 1st, and that's known as National Decision Day. And that's across the country. For the most part, four-year universities want you to decide by May 1st. You can decide sooner, but generally speaking, that's your deadline. In order to secure a spot in their freshman class, you do have to pay a non-refundable freshman deposit. And that's pretty much your commitment to the university that, yes, I'm going to go here, because they kind of they'll plan for your year depending on how many freshman deposits they get, because they might accept 5,000 students and maybe 2,000 pay their freshman deposit. Then they know that, okay, we've got an incoming class of 2,000. So we know how many dorm rooms we need. And this is again after COVID. We know how much computer lab space we need. We know how many advisors we need to hire. So they really do their planning depending on that deposit. And that's part of the reason that you do have to pay a deposit. we don't recommend that you pay your deposit until as close to May 1st as possible. Because if, let's say, you get accepted like January 15th to a school and you're like, okay, yes, great, this is my top school, I'm going to go here, I'm going to pay my $100 freshman deposit and I'm good. That's not refundable. If you find out in February that maybe your number two school gave you a scholarship and you're like, well, I really want to go to my number one, but my number two gave me a big scholarship, I'm going to go there. You can't tell number one school that, oh, sorry, I changed my mind, I want my freshman deposit back. Like, you're out $100. So we tell you to wait at least until you get your financial aid award letters from the schools that you apply to, up until May 1st. Don't wait beyond May 1st, because then at that point, if you wait till after May 1st, sometimes they might put you like on their own wait list and say, hey, you didn't make a decision, so we're going to admit everybody and then we'll let you know in the summer if we have space. So don't wait until beyond May 1st, but try to get to as close as possible, because again, once you make that freshman deposit, you can still decide you're not going to go to the school, you're just not going to get your money back. And also, if you keep in mind that your counselors do have to send your final transcript, and so if there is some serious decrease in your GPA that could impact your acceptance. I mean, I've done this for a few years and I've only known of one situation. I had a student several years ago get accepted into John Hopkins, and he found out really early because he applied early decision. And like third and fourth quarter, he was like, oh, I got into my number one school, I'm good. And like his GPA literally went from like a 3.7 to like a 2.0. Like when I tell you he did the bare minimum once he got accepted, he did the bare minimum. And John Hopkins wrote to him in the summer and said, unfortunately, we have decided to rescind our acceptance because of such a huge drop off. So just keep that in mind. That's highly unlikely. But once you get that acceptance, just don't feel like, okay, well, high school's over. Because if there is a big drop for some reason, they could change their mind. So in the next category, so you've been accepted. The next category is accepted, but you have to enroll into a bridge program. Okay. So that's the next slide. We talk a little bit, and I mentioned that if you're in a bridge program, you might have to. Ms. Tucker, can you hit the next slide? So if you're in a bridge program, again, it is an acceptance of sorts, but it means that we're going to accept you, but we're going to make you take this bridge program that will bridge from high school to college to get you ready. That's generally only a small amount of students are accepted with the bridge program. It's really the student that they feel like they're right there. If they require a 3.0 and you're like, or they want a 3.0 and you're like at a 2.9, you're like right there. You're so close. They may offer you acceptance with the bridge program. So just think about that. Make sure you get all the details. And there are a lot of schools in Maryland that have bridge programs. So just make sure that you speak with your admissions counselor and you get all the details. Some bridge programs, like the ones at Towson and Salisbury, you get financial aid just like you were a student at Towson or Salisbury. Your process isn't any different other than you take your classes at the local community college in Baltimore County. Some programs don't offer financial aid. They're kind of like you're on your own. Your first semester, we'll see what you do and everything in between. Some programs you have to take the classes. You can't live on campus until you get admitted. Everything is a little bit different. So just make sure you have all the information if you're going to decide to, that you want to enroll in this school and do their bridge program. Okay. And then the next category is that you are waitlisted, and that happens. You get that letter in the mail or in your email, and you're waitlisted. Basically, what that means is that they're going to wait to see what you're going to do third or fourth quarter, and that's going to help them make a decision. But keep in mind, the national decision day is May 1st, and so what we would recommend, because generally it doesn't cost you any money if you get waitlisted and it's a school you want to go to, you can just say, okay, yes, I'll accept my waitlist spot and then plan to go somewhere else. And if it turns out that you get admitted into that school, maybe you find out in April because you do really well third quarter that they are going to go ahead and admit you, then you can make a decision. Or maybe they tell you in the summer that you are going to get admitted and you've already paid your freshman deposit at like your second school. Then you can decide, well, do I want to just lose out on my freshman deposit at school number 2 and go ahead and go to this school? Or am I just going to go with that? But like, just keep it in your back pocket. But basically, you may not know before May 1st if you are going to be accepted into a school that you're waitlisted. So just keep that in mind as you're making decisions, okay? And then the last category, the one that we all dread, but it's okay. Like I said, it happens to the best of us. You were denied admission. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel disappointed. I was denied admission to UCLA. I was heartbroken because I just knew I was going to California and I was devastated. But in the grand scheme of things, again, it's really not about what school you go to. It's really about what you do when you get there. But you can appeal. Contact your admissions counselor and find out what the appeal process is. We would just say send them an email. Again, explain why you're interested in the college, why you think you would be a good fit, what sort of things you have to offer, and ask them, can you reconsider my application third or fourth quarter, or ask them for some advice. What do you suggest? And ask them, what is the formal appeal process? Because in some schools, the appeal goes through your admissions counselor. You talk directly to them. At some schools, you got to go above them. It goes to the director of admissions to appeal an admissions decision. So every school is a little bit different, but you can talk with your counselor or talk with, someone at your school if you want them to help you with that appeal process, but you can appeal it. So just keep that in mind. And just once again, want to reiterate that you are going to define your college experience, and that does not depend on the college that you attend. So just keep that in mind when you get some of those decisions. Don't be too heartbroken if it turns out maybe you don't get into your top school. Remember, you can appeal it. And again, it's not at the end of the day, when it comes to graduation, employers are less concerned about the school you went to, but what did you do when you went there? Did you have good grades? Did you get an internship? Do you have professors that can recommend you? Did you participate in a study abroad? People love to see that you've gone to another a country and you've experienced certain things. Did you take a foreign language when you were there? Regardless of what you plan to study, being able to speak Spanish or French or Chinese or another language is extremely helpful. So these are the things that they're going to look for when you graduate. And that does not depend on whether or not you went to Howard or College Park or Morgan or Coppin or Virginia Tech or wherever. Again, it just depends on what you do when you get there. Okay. And so again, and can you, yeah. So some helpful tips. Again, generally speaking, you should not pay your freshman deposit before you receive your financial aid award letters from the schools that you were accepted into. So remember, you only get award letters for the schools that you were accepted into. If you were denied admission, they're not going to give you a financial aid award letter. So you want to hold off on that decision until May 1st. The only exception to that is if you did early decision, because early decision means you applied early and you found out early. But it also means if you did early decision, it means you told the college that, hey, if you accept me, I'm going to cancel out all my other applications. So we don't recommend early decision, but if you did, then once you get accepted, that's it. Like, you have to cancel everything out and you have to go to that school. But very few people apply early decision. So for most people, you've got until May 1st. Find out if you got some scholarships or some opportunities at other schools before you go ahead and um before you go ahead and accept being admitted and you pay your freshman deposit. If you are denied admission to a school, remember that you can appeal this decision. And generally speaking, your freshman deposit is going to be due by May 1st, but you can write to your admissions counselor if for some reason you're having trouble paying a freshman deposit, because some freshman deposits are as little as $50 and some are as high as $500. So if your freshman deposit is kind of in that top range and you're having some financial difficulty, you can write to your admissions counselor, and oftentimes they can waive the actual deposit fee. And so once again, we're gonna go back to that true false, and I'm hoping that everybody can answer the questions correctly. Okay.
Miss Ford, before we do the true false, can we pause for questions?
Oh, sure. Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Good point. Yes, let's pause. Let's pause for questions. Anybody have any questions so far?
Yes.
Please unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
Before we see what you know, drop in the chat if you have any questions, or it's a small group. We can come off with mute. Just want to make sure. If there are none, we can go to it.
All righty. Do you want me to read them, or are you gonna do it, Ms. Tucker?
I can do it.
Okay.
Back at it again. What have you learned? So again, please put true or false in the chat based on what we talked about today. So question again, number 1. Students across the country must decide by April 1st which college they will be attending in the fall. Okay. So true or false, based on what we've discussed, students across the country must decide by April 1st which college that they're going to attend.
Yay, Morgan, you are correct. It is false. It's May 1st. National Decision Day is May 1st, not April 1st. Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Morgan.
Good job, Ellen Morgan. Question number 2. You should go into your student portal and accept your admission into any school that you get into as soon as you receive that decision. Is that true or false? that true or false?
Yes, Ella. Yes, Marcus. Good job, Morgan. It is false.
Very good. Very good. We're on it. Okay, question number 3. You have to pay a small fee in order to hold your spot if admitted into a college. You have to pay a small fee in order to hold your spot if admitted into a college. True or false?
Okay, I saw some people wrote as false, but that is actually true. Almost all 4 universities require a freshman deposit. You have until May 1st, generally speaking, to pay that freshman deposit. But if you are formally accepting admission into a school, you do have to pay a freshman deposit. And again, they do that just so that they know how many students really to expect in their freshman class. And you can reach out to your admissions counselor if you're having trouble paying that fee, but you will more than likely, if you go to a 4-year university, have to pay a freshman deposit by May 1st.
Got that. And I just want to clarify that that's not, say you get accepted into a school early decision or early admission now, that doesn't mean that in order to go to that school period that you have to pay right now to go. Okay, I want you to keep that in mind. It is by May 1st. There's a cutoff and there's a deadline because they have to have, their things in order as well. So the deadline is May 1st to hold your spot for a school. Beyond
Oh,
that, you won't be able to do it.
and thank you, Ms. Tucker. I should have said that. Yes, that's true. So if you feel like you get all your information, your financial aid packages and all of that, like you get all that information and you can make a decision by like March, you've got all the information, go for it. We're not telling you wait till May 1st. If you have everything you need, just know that by May 1st, you're going to have to pay that deposit. You can
Mhm.
accept admission before May 1st and they'll kind of hold your spot. But after May 1st, that's when they're going to expect the deposit. So thank you, Ms. Tucker, for clearing that up.
Yeah, no problem. They're not going to snatch away your admission if you don't pay in like a week or two. So you have some time. Last question. You can appeal an admissions decision if you are not accepted into a school. Is that true or false? You can appeal an admissions decision if you are not accepted into a school.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Marcus. That is true. Every school has a appeal process. You need to email your admissions counselor and find out what that appeal process is at that particular school. So thank you so much. You got everybody for the most part got most of the questions right. Yay, good job. Good job.
Very good. Okay.